second video, my restructured video on integer addition. So briefly, what I want to go over first is the importance of manipulatives, language, and knowledge building into integer addition skills. So as far as manipulatives go, they are extremely important because they allow students to conceptually visualize the process. So number lines, counters, like a scale sort of measurement for understanding both positive and negative numbers, integers, and how they may balance each other out using inverses and the properties of zero. As far as mathematical language goes, it's extremely important to use consistent terms because that really standardizes the definitions of the processes and the properties. And that way it's easier for students to be able to really have specific definitions and procedures in their heads for how they can perform operations. As far as prior knowledge goes, math is like building a house on a foundation, so you really have to have that solid foundation of prior knowledge in order to be able to get to the next topic. Students really need to be able to do basic computations quickly and also to understand the meanings of negatives and positives and how a number line works. So what I'm going to start by focusing on is this problem here, which is 25 plus negative 38. So there's a lot of ways you could use a manipulative to solve this and kind of show how the inverses kind of cancel out to show that it's going to be a negative number and what that number comes out to. However, in this case, I'm doing this without a manipulative. So a couple ways I like to explain it. One way is like a balance scale. So this is kind of helping you realize whether it's going to be negative or positive, our answer. So seeing that the negative number, I'll say, is like a heavier number. So say this 38 is on one side, negative 38, and 25 is on the other side. 38 is it's really a bigger absolute value, a greater absolute value, but it's a heavier number. So the negative one is actually heavier. So that's the way I kind of like to explain how you know whether the answer is negative or positive. As far as kind of conceptualizing without using manipulatives, the process of finding the sum, I'll kind of sometimes say to a student, so imagine you owe $38 here, negative 38, but then you pay back 25. How much do you still owe? And then that kind of gets into the process. I have this thing I call the integer cheat sheet. So it shows the number line at the top with the negative and positive numbers, the integers, and explains absolute value. So there's all the different operations for integers on here, but I'll do adding integers is add the absolute value of the numbers and keep the same sign. This is a little more of a procedural take on it, but it'll be positive plus a positive is, of course, a positive. A negative plus a negative is just getting more negative. But if they're different signs, you'll subtract the absolute values of the numbers and keep the sign of the bigger number. So I'll have absolute value of 38 is 38. Absolute value of 25 is 25. So I'm going to subtract those. 38 minus 25 comes out to 13. And since the number with the bigger absolute value is negative 38, it's going to be a negative 13. So in that case, it would be like you still owe $13. You paid back 25 of them, but you still owe those $13 after the 38 originally owed. So I think that's one way to really go about the procedural method, but using manipulatives, I think, is really important because in that case, you can really visualize what it means. And even just a simple number line can be really helpful. So that is my restructured video number 2 for week 1.